Welcome to Breaking Ties, Destination Divorce. This is your go-to source for practical advice and support while you go through the divorce process. Join us each weekday for a quick chat where we'll cover a variety of topics such as child custody, property division, and self-care. Together, we'll explore emotional, financial, and legal aspects of divorce and help you find the best path forward for you and your family. Here's your host and Certified Divorce Financial Analyst professional, Mike Fulkerson.
Hi, and welcome to day 2 of the Breaking Ties interview series, where we talk with a professional who assists those getting through the divorce process and answers many of the questions that are common that perhaps you haven't had a chance to ask anyone. I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, financial advisor and certified divorce financial analyst professional, and back with me today is Dr. Stephanie Beelendorf. And for those who weren't here with us yesterday, Dr. B is a pediatric and prenatal specialist with Select Health Chiropractic in St. Charles, Illinois. And we're going to go over some, health and wellness questions. For our listeners that did miss yesterday's episode, I would, suggest you go back and take a listen to that, because every day's questions are going to be different. And this will give you an opportunity to learn more about health and wellness as we navigate the divorce process. Welcome back, Dr. B. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, good to see you again. I'm so interested in today's topic as well as the next few days that we have going on, because these questions are just, I just find them so insightful and interesting. As you and I have both been through the divorce process, so you can we can relate on that level.
I can't really say if that's fortunately or unfortunately, but either way, we're here today and happy individuals. So there is a rainbow on the other side.
Absolutely. So today we're going to look at kind of a 3-part type of question. And we're going to start with, as people are considering getting a divorce, I mean, it's really challenging. Just even thinking about it makes people stress up and tense. So why would getting adjusted while you're considering getting a divorce helpful?
Well, I think the big question overall, and not just getting adjusted, but why would you want self-care in general while you're considering getting a divorce? And chiropractic care definitely falls into that. And we can talk a bit about that too a little later, or maybe in a future episode. But really, self-care becomes imperative because, unfortunately, throughout a marriage, when you're getting ready to, or you even think that there's a potential that there's a divorce. I mean, I don't know about you, Mike, but I don't believe I've ever met anybody that's in a happy marriage that says I'm considering divorce.
This is true.
So that means right then and there that there is a plethora of stress. And a lot of times we put it inside because, let's face it, we're communicative for a long point into our marriage. And then if we're considering divorce, usually that's when communication tends to be either broken or breaking down, or we're in therapy. So we're talking about it there, and therapy is great. I went through 5 years of it myself. Thank you to everybody that's taking care of me in that process. But we tend to just then put it all inside. And then if we're uncertain, that just adds another level of stress. I guess the beauty of getting adjusted while you're considering divorce is that it helps balance your autonomic nervous system. Studies have shown that when you get adjusted, it affects directly the vagus nerve, which is your rest and digest nerve. So there's 2 parts to your autonomic nervous system. There's the fight and flight, and there's your rest and digest. So we want to be in a more restful state when we're going through a divorce. Naturally, our sympathetic nervous system is going to be more online. But when we adjust you, or when a chiropractor, or a neurologically based chiropractor, that's important too, adjusts you, it brings that vagus nerve back online. So it's like your foot's on the gas pedal and you're doing 100 miles an hour. And then divorce just pushes that pedal down further. And when you can get the vagus nerve online through an adjustment naturally, and there's something else more interesting on that too, and I'll speak to that in just a second, but when you can get that back online naturally, it just calms you down. It's like, having a glass of wine or whatever you like, or getting a good massage, or anything that just calms you down. And that calm feeling comes over you. And a lot of times people that walk into our practice or into our office don't even know that's what's happening to them, but they just leave feeling better.
Right.
There's some irony in that. And real quick, I'm just going to say it real fast. The pharmaceutical industry actually wanted to, and I don't know if they actually produced it or not, but they wanted to make a vagal nerve stimulator and like implant it into our bodies. Wild, true, look it up. But the reality is that chiropractors can do that naturally and not get
that is a wild fun fact. Wow.
No, thank you.
Now, you've seen, and helped many people. So I was kind of wondering if you noticed, we talked about the considering a divorce and how stressful that is and the changes. Have you noticed any differences between that level and, say, someone who's going through the process and then finishes the process?
Yeah. So going through the process, I think at least at that point, you've made decisions. So I feel, and I'm speaking unfortunately again, but fortunately, I have to say it from experience, that once you know the path, I do think it tends to clear your head a little better. I see, and I've seen over the years, patients that have struggled and actually confided in me, because a big part of what we do in this practice isn't just people become family here. Our patients become family. And so they ask me, hey, doc, who can I get to help me with this? Or do you know anybody to navigate? Or I've had this before. Do you got a good divorce attorney? So yeah, here we are. So they've made a decision. And I think that really does help with the stress level. But then there's this downside, because as we get that nervous system to calm down a little bit, a lot of times, because we've been stuck so high in that sympathetic dominant state, naturally our body wants to stay there. So we're kind of fighting that, and we want to come down and be more parasympathetic or more relaxed. Again, that's back to the vagus nerve. And that's what we really want to see happening. But our bodies, it's like, hey, the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, however many years you've been going through it, it's been absolutely chaotic. And now we have this big thing ahead of us, which is a divorce. And so we need to stay up here. So I think in this phase, we do tend to kind of come down a little bit, just because we're like, okay, we made a decision, but we're going to come down just a little bit. But what's great is when you get adjusted and you have somebody helping with that vagal nerve stimulation, then you're going to be able to not have those highs and lows so much. So I think that's where that tends to be, that's the difference.
Right. Yeah. And so then I would say, probably from my own experience, once you get actually through the process, that stress level comes down a little more. There's still, a little uncertainty and stuff, but would you agree that, that stress level then takes another step down at that stage?
It does. And at this point, if you haven't sought care at this point, you really want to. And it's not just for the chiropractic portion. Self-care is huge. And I think when you're prior to a divorce and you're in a divorce, you really don't focus on yourself. And I'm sure that there's tons of listeners out there that could relate to that, or maybe people considering or in the middle of it. On the other side, after your divorce, that's the time that you need to take care of you. So if you didn't get chiropractic care, if you didn't do your daily meditation, if you didn't start working out, if you didn't start eating healthy, if you didn't do anything for yourself, like now is the time.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I think, working on yourself, giving yourself some stress-free time, mindfulness, all of it plays a really great role in just who you are as a person, and giving you the foresight to, kind of think and be creative and be who you want to be after the divorce is finalized. So this concludes our second day of the interview. More great information. Oh my gosh, that was really good. I would like to let our listeners know that you're going to want to join us again tomorrow as we continue our discussion on chiropractic wellness and divorce with Dr. B. And we would both like to thank you for joining us today on this episode of Breaking Ties interview series. Should you have any questions for Dr. B, her information will be in the description. You can reach out to her and contact her. She is always happy to assist any way she can. And remember that divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. And we will see you tomorrow.
We want to thank you for listening to this episode of Breaking Ties, Destination Divorce with Mike Fulkerson. For questions, please reach out to Mike via email in the description or give him a shout at 630-444-1410. Remember to subscribe, like, and follow.